you have any connections to anybody that does like criminal investigations or people that are just really good researchers in general, could you pass them my way? I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks desperately trying to find all of the conservatives that I'm sure are outraged about the fact that there was a suppression of a story about JD Vance on Twitter, because remember, the suppression of the Hunter laptop story was literally the worst thing that ever happened in the history. So I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks looking for those conservatives that are equally outraged about the JD Vance suppression. By the way, JD Vance, who's an actual candidate who's part of that ticket, and not Hunter Biden, who's just, the kind of a guy running for president. So, I'm going to be looking for those conservatives for a while. Yeah.
I will absolutely send you tips on that. That is absolutely bad. I've seen 3 or 4 people today get blocked out of their account or completely banned. I mean, obviously we know that Ken was banned, but like I've seen 3 or 4 people getting locked out of their accounts for sharing screenshots of the document.
Jesus.
Of the document. Like Eric Bohm from Reason took a screenshot and posted an hour or 2 ago, and he was banned. He was locked out of his account for doing that. It's absolutely insane.
Me, I didn't even know Elon had tweeted about this. Are you serious? Wow, it's hack. We're doing a hacked materials doxing policy. Good one. I hope 2 more of his kids because of this one. I hope he does. Good for you, Elon. God, okay. All right, I'm gonna go be a liberal. Yeah, have fun.
Do your thing. Thanks, Steven.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I can't believe he tweeted this. Are you serious? It's a joke, right? It has to be a joke. They know it's like wouldn't it be like hilarious if this thing happened and then we had like the exact same response that the liberals had, except we act like, it's okay when we do it? What's the JD Vance story? I actually have no idea. So I shouldn't give a strong comment on it. I heard that supposedly there's a dossier, Oppo research or whatever, on JD Vance that is maybe from Iran. I'm not actually sure, but apparently it's being suppressed on Twitter because it's counts as doxing or something. Crazy, huh? But one of the scary things is now one of the biggest bad actors that has their fingers on the cultural levers is Elon Musk, who is also anti-liberal and lives in an insane world, and now he controls one of the largest social media platforms on the internet for news. There is no way to institutionally get around that. So yeah, we haven't really seen like a social media company actually be what conservatives accuse them of being before, which is when you have a huge social media company that's controlled by an avowed outward partisan who is openly and blatantly supporting one candidate, and then amplifying voices that are attacking one political party on a platform like we've seen with Elon and X.
Right, right. And it's a real challenge, too, especially it looks like Mark Zuckerberg might be joining him in the crazy house. Who knows whether we're freaking out a little bit prematurely. But it does seem to me that like there probably has to be some sort of institutional answer here. I mean, it seems like Twitter's a particularly bad example, but our social media algorithms are amplifying the problem. And I know a lot of people have called for social media regulation. I imagine we'd all agree that I'm not very optimistic about its prospects. I suppose I'm confident in the free market to offer alternative social media arrangements. And maybe that's an example of the liberal thought process where I think very frequently people look to the government to save them. They look at a problem of a free society and they say, the government needs to solve this. And often liberals have said, well, why can't we form our own social institutions that could solve this problem ourselves?
1 second, I ate a piece of bread. You were supposed to chime in with something there, so I wasn't awkwardly silent. No, that's okay. Thinking that the free market will solve the misinformation problem, I think is akin to thinking that like socialism or communism can do like a command economy and solve every problem. At the end of the day, firms optimize for revenue, and revenue is usually by delivering a product that people want. And people have this huge disconnect. They have this big bad assumption that human beings are like these truth-desiring, truth-seeking creatures. And we're not. We just like things that usually make us feel good or provide us some level of comfort, or things that can reinforce a narrative or whatever. Or that does those prior 2 things I mentioned. The free market will only deliver systems that are increasingly good at that. The idea that expecting the free market to deliver some type of like system that prioritizes truth or fact is just, there's no reason why it should. It doesn't have.
Well, yeah, unless people wanted it.
Yeah,
right?
which they clearly don't. Right. So yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have had the exact same thought that you, and it's actually very concerning for me because when I look at, I think you're actually touching on something that I don't have an answer to whatsoever. When you're looking at like what market incentives are pulling people to, they're pulling people towards misinformation, right? And so in this case, a liberal solution is not apparent to me. I know that there is likely a solution to this, and we need to find a solution. Otherwise, we're going to be as a society and a civilization. But I don't necessarily know exactly what that solution is. And I do think anecdotally that there could be, market-based solutions if we're dealing with good actors. Like, as we mentioned, like there, as despite the fact that Elon Musk is incredibly illiberal, the community notes function, I think, has actually been a pretty damn good function, and he's gotten fact-checked a couple times. Now, the answer is not clear to me.
Well, let me hop in with
the problem even is just on that. The issue, though, is that because conservatives are so divorced from reality at this point, they're able to effectively incorporate every criticism as a furtherance of the conspiracy that they live in. Like, if you go to a conservative, you talk to them and say, wait, well, I know this is bullshit. And you go like, how do you know this is bullshit? It's like, well, it was literally fact check. The fact checkers? Those are all liberal bias. Snopes is just liberal bias, right? Fact check, that's like a liberal tool. That's like a liberal bias. Like they don't believe things called fact checking anymore. They don't believe in that. They have their own world. I don't know.
Right. And it's unfortunate. All radical ideologies seem to do the same thing. I mean, Marxist-Leninists talk about like hegemony, capitalist hegemony, which makes the Soviet Union look bad. Ultimately, it's a problem that has to be solved. And it doesn't seem like the government will solve it. It seems like in order for the government to solve it, the public would have to be convinced to demand the government solve it, which seems also very unlikely itself. Now, I'm optimistic about something called the Fediverse. Right now, social media is naturally monopolistic because of network effects. Why do I not leave Twitter? Because all my friends are on Twitter. I don't want to lose my followers, right? But I don't like how Twitter is. Threads sort of maybe join this. It's kind of like what Mastodon is. Social media could become a user interface that allows you to connect to something bigger, just like Chrome allows you to connect to the internet. And that could allow people to freely change social media sites while carrying their followers with them and still being able to see posts on other sites. Does that solve every problem? No, because people would still have to move to the better platforms. But I'm somewhat optimistic about that prospect. Do you think that's like even possible that we could convince people to like demand better and move to better kinds of social media firms?
No, because I think that one of the big problems you have right now is people have this assumption that every single person is the same in terms of their engagement with reality right now. So anytime you push in a direction where you're punishing like a bad thing that's not tied inherently to a political party, conservatives will always accuse you of being heavily biased and they won't participate. Like if you try to say like, okay guys, for today, we're just going to make it so that on this platform, you're not allowed to say any verifiably untrue statements about whatever topic. Conservatives are all going to rise up and say you're biased because they're going to be the ones getting hit the most. And they're just going to cry about it. And they're going to say, oh, this is all liberal bias, right? We can't say that the Fauci made $700 billion off the vaccine that, child, like, you, obviously this is a liberal platform, right? And you're like, oh, well, us, I guess. And then you could play into what the media unfortunately has done, even the left has done over the past 8 years, like the liberal media, in that you try to hold both sides accountable like they're the same, but then that just lets conservatives be increasingly delusional because they don't actually give a fuck about any criticisms coming from the left ever, because they're authoritarians, right? So why the fuck do you care about the people that you want to subjugate, right? So nothing that you say matters to them. And then when you shut on the left obviously cares, right? Like the conservative media can attack Trump all day. Trump's never stepping down because the liberal media attacked Biden. Biden stepped down in how long was it after the debate? A week or two? Like, yeah. So it's like, it's not even close to it's just, you can't live in worlds where you have such dramatically different standards. It's not functional. And there's no moral and there's no good and there's no effective way to navigate that world. So the first thing you have to do is aggressively even up the standards, because you can't exist in a world where your opponent is allowed to fart in an elevator next to you and then tell you that you did it. Like, you can't live in that world.
What does it look like to up the standards? When you say that, you mean like really be radical, like call out the bullshit unabashedly? Is that kind of the model that you're saying?
Yeah, there needs to be more unabashed, like hardcore, okay. Like when you're in a conversation with a conservative, like they need to admit some things up front. For me right now, obviously it's the J6 stuff, but it should be more too. Like, hey, didn't you say we were all supposed to have vaccine passports right now? Or, oh, hey, didn't you say that COVID was a giant hoax? Oh, hey, didn't you say that there were supposed to be massive like deaths from vaccine injuries? Or oh, hey, didn't you say that we were gonna like give all of our money to Ukraine and go bankrupt? Or oh, hey, weren't we supposed to have communism after 8 years of Obama? Hey, weren't we supposed to have communism after 4 years of Biden? Or hey, didn't you say the DOJ was corrupt? Why do we have a conviction on Hunter Biden? Why do we have the New York mayor or whatever? Like, hey, there's no accountability for any of these things ever. Meanwhile, these guys will say, what about when that guy wiped Hillary's email server?
Yeah. No. I think you're completely correct. Okay, well then why don't we, because I do want to talk a bit about the left, but actually one of the things I'll say is that I I actually just, went on a show with some social democrats and talked to them about this thing. I think in this political moment, despite the issues that liberals might have with the left, we're in a moment right now where we need to kind of fight to defend liberal institutions.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think absolutely the biggest threat to liberal institutions right now is MAGA authoritarianism. It's dominating the Republican Party. It's a big issue.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.